Hey everyone, I'm Peter Mancuso.
And I'm Brian Koch.
And this is our series Countdown to Coco. I think I introduce every episode in like a different way.
Slightly different.
But at the core the same.
Okay.
Where we watch and discuss every single Pixar theatrically released film in preparation of their 19th film, Coco. Excuse me, the Coco.
Geez,
I forgot a word. The Coco being released later this year in November, around Thanksgiving. And this episode we're going to be talking about, we are in for a treat.
Oh, yes.
We're talking about their sixth film? Sixth?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Their sixth film. They finally got it right.
They did.
You know, because the other ones were terrible.
Yes, of course.
They released...
They cracked it.
Our favorite title of a movie.
Of course.
It's called The Incredibles. Now, This is, like I said, their sixth film came out in 2004. The first Pixar film to be directed by someone who wasn't a part of that...
Like an outsider.
An outsider. Wasn't part of like that brain trust, like that, like John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, Pete Docter... Joe Ranft, like stuff of the like.
Yes.
And it shows
definitely.
And that's not necessarily a qualifying statement, like that it's better or worse because of that. But like it feels 100% different than all 5 of the other films.
It shows a willingness to experiment and branch out, and that's something that Brad Bird, when he talked about this before, he said how when they were bringing him on. That Pixar had expressed nervousness at this idea of we fear we're kind of repeating ourselves. We could end up repeating ourselves and adhering to formula and such. And he's just but you're so successful. But okay, I guess I'll come on and I'll do something different. But I don't know why you would want to try to do something all that.
Why are you gonna mess with something that's so good?
Yeah, it ain't broke. But yeah. So and another thing it's a first for it's the first PG rated film from Pixar.
Okay.
So
and it shows.
Yeah, and to the point that when we're watching it, we're thinking, well, this could. I mean, if you slapped a PG-13 on this, no one would.
I think the only thing holding it back from that, I think if it were live action, it would have been PG-13 easily. But because it's it's a cartoon, it's it's like a cartoon guy dying and not a real person.
And no one curses, and there's no nudity. It's just there's suicide and. Manslaughter.
It's heavier than any of the other.
It's really
It's we talk about Finding Nemo being the most mature up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this takes it to even another level.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It feels like a more adult story, not adult inappropriate for children, because even as kids we loved it, but adult in the sense of really something I think an adult can sink their teeth into, someone who doesn't have kids.
Yeah.
Because I think up to this point, Pixar movies have been enjoyed by kids, parents, and people who are really into film and animation. I don't think people would go see, I don't think 30-year-olds we're going to see Pixar films. I think this was kind of a turning point for that.
I swear to God, you say that every time. But anyway,
I think even more so.
Okay, because I think the difference is before there had been mature themes and of course Finding Nemo, Barracuda attack, Dad loses everything, expressed in a sort of primal way that I think a kid could latch onto. But with this, there's kind of more headier, involved ideas. As I was just saying in the beginning, when there's the person that Mr. Incredible saves who did not want to be saved.
I never really understood that as a kid. I remember, but I don't understand the implications.
I asked my mom, why did that guy not want to? I don't understand. And she's just because he's crazy. I was because I didn't get it. I was that doesn't make any sense. He saved his life. But yeah, so there's a lot of stuff like that really it's very high concept in the sense that it examines these sort of ideas that you really don't when you walked into The Incredibles. I think even with all of the expectations that you had for Pixar, you probably then are going into it as an adult, as a halfway cynical adult, being we're just gonna be we're riffing on superheroes, we're gonna have some yucks, the dad one is fat. But no, you walk in and it's really quite the adventure.
Because it's harder, I think. It's truly amazing. This film shouldn't work, and what I mean by that is going off what we were saying about these heady concepts that maybe kids won't really get. Yet, as a kid, I loved this.
Oh yeah.
But like, I feel like there's a lot of reasons why kids wouldn't like this.
The main character is the dad who's going through a midlife crisis.
There's a lot of like, the movie deals with some really complex issues of marriage. Mm-hmm. Even though kids aren't parents, they can kind of get into the idea of Monsters Inc. and Finding Nemo and Toy Story.
Yeah, of course.
This is this is completely out of the realm of like a child, even like an 8 or 9 year old's like mental kind of grammar or like vocabulary, and but it works.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It works. Like who thought a movie really about marriage? Like people say it's about family. I think it's really about marriage.
I think it's about family too, but like there's
a huge element.
Much of it is marriage, right? I think like especially for like about like the first like hour or so of this movie, there's really not too much of the kids, and even like not too much of Helen until like I would say once we get into like the second half of the movie, I feel like there's like a bit of a baton pass, and a very welcome baton pass, and one that the movie does I think very gracefully, from like, okay, we're focusing on Bob and his strife and his longing for the glory days, to here's Helen and here's how she's like trying to like clean up the mess, and like the kids and the kids being and you gotta love how like all the powers are reflections of their insecurities or their personalities or their obligations in some way. Like Brad Bird talks about this, how like Elastigirl, like, you know, like as the mom trying to make everything work, she has to stretch in all these different directions.
Yeah, which is just genius.
Yeah, and like, you know, like Violet, of course, with her like, you know, like her insecurity and concerns with her body and being shy and such, literally invisible, like brilliant, like all of this. It's such perfect like. To use the word marriage again, marriages of the idea to the superpower.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And it's really super well constructed. You know. Oh, well, actually, what I want to say is going back to this idea of kind of like these things that are new to Pixar.
Yeah.
And I truly think, you know, maybe besides really underground or maybe Eastern. Works, like maybe something like maybe a Miyazaki thing, maybe notwithstanding. I think, you know, a great thing I think of is in the scene with the dinner scene.
Oh,
No, but not the one you're thinking of.
Oh.
The dinner scene at the lava place.
At No Medicine Island.
There's a lot of
between Bob and Mirage.
There's a lot of sexual tension.
Oh yeah,
and not like like the parents won't understand the kids. Like no, like they're being like he's attracted to power as am I. Like there's a lot because there's a whole kind of through line of like him like at least it's almost set up in the sense of like Helen almost thinks that that's like his mistress.
Right.
The whole thing about
which
like,
that's another thing that goes over your head as a kid. The fact that like she could suspect that there's an affair.
You know what I mean? Like, it's in a way that I don't think American mainstream films had ever done. Like, that's what I'm saying. I think this one, I think more so even than Finding Nemo. Yeah. I think Finding Nemo proved that film, that animation could have scenes that resonated in a real film way. I think with The Incredibles, you're really dealing with like, this could have been made as a PG-13 live-action film. Right? Absolutely. But because it's animated, like like the MPAAs and that's true because they think it's like not as.
And Disney's got them in their pocket. I mean, nothing.
so my point being is I think there's a lot here. Big strides in animation, I think, for the way content can be presented. I think because it feels really more like a superhero action movie than an animated film. You know.
Yeah, you get your money's worth. It's not a superhero farce. There is like some element of satire to it, but a lot of it is played straight, and it's all the better for it. Because, like, even though, like, it uses some of, like, these tropes in, like not to say surface level way, but, like, not for, like, inherently comedic purposes. It, like, it sort of it picks and chooses which ones will best sort of reflect the story that it wants to tell, and the way that it invokes them is so brilliant. Like, even, like, as early on... Like, you see, like, just how, like, genre-savvy it is when, like, early on in, like, the 15 years earlier segment, you have, like, the sort of confrontation with Bon Voyage, who's, like, a classic, like, sort of, like, Saturday morning cartoon sort of villain. But, like, it's very, very brief, but, like, right away you get across this idea of, like, oh, they know exactly then how like, these sort of then characters work. But at the same time, the way that they sort of, like, end up using that character reflects a sentiment that Helen sort of tries to ingrain in the kids later, in such a great scene when she talks about how, like, you know, the bad guys you would see on those cartoons. Well, these guys aren't like those guys. They will kill you if they get the chance.
Really good, heavy stuff.
Because Bon Voyage plants the bomb on Buddy's cape. And, like, you know, and that's really something sort of interesting. Who could have then just been, like, he's this wacky, like, sort of, like, cartoon villain.
He was going to murder that kid.
He was going to murder that kid. And that's, like, that really, like, sort of, like, sets the tone in a way. And, like, yeah, like, we use this, we're willing to, like, lean into it and, like, have our fun. But, like, also, this is, like, there are real stakes. Like, how difficult it is to navigate that tonal balance. My God.
And how hard it is to instill those stakes, I think, in not just animated films, but superhero films. Both of them.
Oh, yeah.
The stakes in this feel very real.
Because the characters still have pain. And that's another very
important you see them get hurt.
Yeah. Like I think, like, one thing that I remember Brad Bird talking about that was really, really interesting is the scene, again in, like, the 15 years earlier segment, when, like, he's trying to stop the train, and he's getting ready for the impact, and you see he's, like, starting to, like, wince.
Which is great editing.
Yeah, because it's not just like, oh, well, I can do this here, I'm Superman, like, no, like, he can, he's very strong, but it's gonna hurt. And that's another, like, very difficult thing.
He's not impervious to pain, he's just strong.
Right, because if he was impervious to pain, it would be like, oh, okay, whatever, he could just bang around like rubber, it doesn't matter. But, like, also then you have to, like, address the fact that he does have superpowers, so, like, that's really hard to then get across, like, investment.
Yeah. You know, going off what you were saying about, like, this idea of it really does play it straight, and it's not satirizing the genre, the superhero genre.
Yeah.
That much. Like, it really is playing it straight.
Right.
And I think, you know, this is not the show. This is about Pixar, not superhero films.
Yes.
But slightly going into it, because this is part of that canon.
Right.
You know? People talk about, like, what's, like, the greatest superhero film, what makes a really great superhero film.
This is the greatest superhero film.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. What I would say is the best superhero films are the ones that defy the genre. And so this is, you know, I can't argue. I don't agree, but I'm not gonna argue with you about it.
I think this does defy the genre, though.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying that I would probably put, like, The Dark Knight or Logan above this.
But, like, what I would say with Logan, it has, like, some third act issues, and with The Dark Knight, like, it has, like, several different pieces to juggle and, like, characters to service that not all of them it really gives their due. Like, of course it gives the Joker his due, and to a lesser extent Batman himself. Yeah. But The Incredibles, I feel like every single element is firing off on all cylinders in service of the story. And they're calibrated exactly right throughout the film, to the point that, like, earlier on we don't even, like, use the family that much because that's not really relevant to what's currently happening in the story. Mm-hmm. And, like, even a breakout character like Edna Mode, we only get, like, in, like, a few scenes. But
so funny. Still,
like, oh, yeah, so funny. Like, totally steals all the screen time that she has. But, like, yeah, she's not, like, she doesn't overstay her welcome whatsoever. Brad Bird is, like, really great at knowing exactly then, like, how much he needs to focus on what. And, yeah, like, again, like, getting back to, like, sort of, like, the satirical elements, like, he'll ingrain, like, a few of those things, like the thread about monologuing and how hilarious that is, and how, like, they kind of set that up. Because they set that up with Frozone, like, he starts monologuing, he got me on some, and then we get that with Syndrome, and it's not even, like, that's, like, oh, like how they're able to, like, save the day because, like, it's, like, a cheap thing that then they, like, set up. No, it's just, like, it's just a gag, and it's to show, like, the awareness of the genre and how we're having fun. And we're having an awareness of that world and of that trope, but we're not going to then be beholden to them. And these characters are aware of them, and it's like, you sly dog, you caught me monologuing. We're not going to then just be like, okay, well, this is the way it goes, so we have to do. No, it's gonna be realer.
Yeah.
No,
I can totally. I couldn't agree more about everything you're saying about why it's the greatest superhero film ever made. And that's the thing, is I think it's probably those three that I mentioned that are kind of like, I can't really say which one is better. Because what I would say is, my point being is that if you were to say that's the best one, which is what you are saying, I can't argue with you. It's kind of like saying, like, which is the... Well, we will try to say it, but, like, the only thing we go back to, like, what's the best Toy Story? Like, I can't really get mad at anyone for saying either of the three. So my point being is I can't really argue with you if you say that. What I would say is there's two sides of the same coin. Logan and Dark Knight are trying their best to like stray from the traditional superhero genre. Yeah. Whereas Incredibles, in a not pejorative sense, I don't mean this in a pejorative way, completely embraces like that pulpy,
it does embrace it.
Like I don't want to say campy. That's not the word I'm looking for, but it embraces the genre where I think Logan and Dark Knight are trying to subvert it. This isn't subverted, but in also some ways it does.
Because that helps all the more with when it juxtaposes it and when it contrasts it. Because we get as like
so I would say they're two sides of the same coin.
As we can in the beginning of it, and then boom, we're in the Insuricare office and it's drab and mundane and look what's become of the superheroes now in hiding. So like they have their cake and eat it too, so to speak.
You know what's interesting when I was watching it? I don't know if this is because of Michael Giacchino's score, my
God, how it didn't even get nominated for an Oscar. Utterly criminal.
It's so good. It's one of the best film scores I've heard.
Yes.
But
first time it's not a Newman scoring
it's not Randy or Thomas.
It's not Randy or Thomas. Yes. Okay. But you were going to say.
What I was going to say is the aesthetic of it, the kind of the, not the mythology, but like the technology, the locales, the music, it felt kind of more like a James Bond thing.
Oh yeah.
I think it draws more inspiration from James Bond than, it's kind of like it draws more inspiration from James Bond with this very generalized passing knowledge of superhero. Because I don't see anything specific. I don't see anything in this movie that's drawing from something specific. From superhero canon, which I really like.
Yeah.
Because what does Spider-Man draw from? Nothing. It's just Spider-Man. Yeah. What does Superman draw from? Nothing. It's just Superman. So I would say that I think that's part of its great success. That it's not just riffing off of. It's not just
people say it draws from the Fantastic Four. But
well, I would say I could totally see that. And in a sense, kind of agree. Because people say, I wish there was a good Fantastic Four movie. I'm like, yeah, it's called The Incredibles.
Right.
Like,
But, I'm not too familiar with the Fantastic Four, but, like, the ideals and ambitions and, like, the characters of The Incredibles, like, from what I understand, are very different. It's just in the sense of, like, here's, like, this superhero group, and, like, there's one with strength.
From what I understand, the Fantastic Four is very much about family.
It is about family.
The comics, the films, from what I understand, the films have just butchered that property to the point of being unrecognizable from the true comics. But from what I understand, the comics really are about family.
All right.
But even so, this is like literally a family.
Okay. And maybe you could answer me this as well. To what degree is this reminiscent of, because I'm not actually familiar with this because I haven't seen nor read it, Watchmen. To what degree?
That's a great thing to bring up.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so for those of you who don't know about Watchmen, I'll briefly explain. So Watchmen was a graphic novel that came out in 1985. And that's important when it came out.
Right.
It's about basically a world, it's not as prevalent and it doesn't bear as much influence on the story. It basically exists in a world where the superheroes exist.
Yes.
It's actually really cool that they exist in a world with Superman, like the comic book. Right? And these people, like...
Oh, that's cool.
They're, most of them don't have powers. One of them does. Dr. Manhattan has powers. Because he's like an atom bomb person. But they don't have powers. And a lot of the politics are explained in the comic about, like, the police. It's not so much about people suing them for not wanting to be saved. In Watchmen, it's more about the people, like the police, like there's a whole thing that the police like go on strike because they're they're upset that these vigilantes exist doing their job and like they're not doing it the way they want them to do it. So they're on strike and everyone's like they need to go into high school. A law is passed, the Keene Act, which basically outlaws vigilantism, which had already been outlawed, but like more specifically like caped crusaders. Right? This movie comes out and kind of draws on that.
I see.
And when Watchmen, the film, came out in 2009, people called out Watchmen, the movie, being like, "Oh, you copied The Incredibles." But really,
Watchmen was first.
Technically, I mean, they're different enough where Incredibles didn't really rip it off. But if someone ripped off anything, it was The Incredibles ripping off Watchmen. So it's funny. People were like, "Watchmen, you ripped off Incredibles." I mean, this has been around. Watchmen's been around since the 80s. So it's a little different. Whereas this is all kind of about finding your identity, whereas this is more just like Watchmen has similar ideas of like, you know, like we're heroes, we need to do this. But the whole inciting incident is that basically there's a cape killer, is what they call it, or mask killer. Excuse me, that's what it's called.
Okay.
And there's this big superhero, well, him not the superhero, like the regular citizen version of him.
I see.
His alter ego gets murdered.
I see.
And Rorschach, who's still kind of still doing the vigilantism, goes to see another friend of his. I think I forget his name.
Okay.
But like his alter ego, like his like human, like actual person,
right.
and he's like, someone killed the comedian. That's the superhero, the comedian. Someone killed the comedian. Well, I think it's the comedian. I'm not sure because no one knows each other's alternate identities.
Oh, okay.
So they're like, there's a killer trying to kill us. And that's kind of the whole plot, figuring out the mystery of like who's killing off of these superheroes.
Okay.
So very different.
So there is someone killing all the supers.
Yes. Okay. Though it ends up being, I don't want to spoil it. Never. I don't want to say what it is.
All right,
but it's different enough where it's really not the same.
Okay, but at least from the way you described it, it seems more like it's a struggle for who has authority in the society between like superheroes and police and such. Whereas with the Incredibles, it's less about like who really has authority, because we see like they're perfectly willing to like work together in like the opening scene of Incredibles. This is more about like the implications that being a superhero has on someone without powers, to the point that we get into all these themes about like like Helen says, like to fit in we just got to be like everybody else. And, like, mediocrity being celebrated over someone who's, like, truly exceptional in certain areas.
And still a prescient and relevant topic.
Yeah.
Especially back then, but even more, I think so still now.
Because that's a really, like, sort of, like heavy theme to kind of, like, slide in there. Because, like, how many, like, family films have you seen that are all about, like, 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 rewarding, like, expressing yourself, doing blah, 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 blah. Like, how often do you see, like, this is, like, in many ways could be considered like the equivalent of like, we've then tried to make like everyone in the school like feel equal as opposed to like just the jocks like reigning supreme. No, like let the jocks like be happy, let's celebrate that. To which like that could potentially be a very sort of like alienating message to propose. And I don't think that's exactly what it's saying, but
I think it's saying celebrate. Yeah. I think because that's an issue in culture now.
Right.
The idea of like, the participation trophy.
The participation.
That's its most kind of visible.
That everyone is a winner. Yes.
Everyone's a winner. I think what the movie's trying to really promote is this idea of if you have talents,
yes,
you should use them. They shouldn't go to waste.
Exactly.
I don't think it's the idea of like might makes right. Like if I'm better,
right,
that I want you to know how much better I am than you. And I think that's kind of part of Bob's flaw.
Yeah.
But I think in the end that his idea of it is more in line with I think what Brad Bird's trying to get at, in the sense of people should be proud of what they can do.
Because it's what they're best at.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like we should celebrate uniqueness and skill.
Right.
But it's kind of this weird balancing act that you have to do. But just going slightly off back to the comparison between Watchmen.
Just another testament to its strength that it's able to pull that off. But
Incredibles is much more about these issues.
Yeah.
Whereas Watchmen is very much like about accountability. The name Watchmen comes from this. I think it's like some Roman proverb about who watches the watchmen.
Okay.
This idea of who is governing the governors.
So this almost feels like more. It leads straight into like the ideals of something like Civil War. Like accountability.
Watchmen?
Yeah.
Watchmen and Civil War are very similar. In fact, a lot of people harped on Civil War, the comic, not the film.
Right.
Well, also the film, but that comes from the comic.
Yeah.
A lot of people harped when that came out in I think 2006. A lot of people harped. It's a very similar thing. In Civil War, it's like a registration act. In the comic,
right.
It's a registration act where superheroes can opt to unmask themselves. In the MCU, it's different because they don't have secret identities. That's the big conflict. Is like Spider-Man having to decide like, do I want to reveal my identity?
Right.
They're different enough that I don't think it's fair to be like one drew from the other. Because I think they're,
and of course Incredibles invokes family to such a extreme extent that like it arguably becomes contextualized more within that sort of than like personal area of their lives and than like their societal obligations as much.
And this film explores it, I think, like in a more interesting way than Watchmen or the Civil War comic book.
Yeah.
In those examples, it very much is about like very, I can relate to an extent, but it's hard to relate to this Rorschach's plight of wanting to be a vigilante. Whereas with this, it's presented in such real world terms. Like they have what's the guy's name? Mr. Dicker?
Rick Dicker. Yeah.
Rick Dicker, who comes in,
voiced by Bud Lucky, who works at Pixar.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he comes in and he has to we have to pay off the company. We have to do this. Oh, money. It's very much like a witness protection program.
Yeah.
It's like a very real world, understandable way of doing that. But that's so fascinating. Like,
it is fascinating.
So it's not like a thing where it's like, hey, that guy's Spider-Man. So it's kind of just like we have to keep everybody quiet. We just have to pay everybody off. Like, that's really interesting.
Race memories, all that, yeah. No, it is super interesting because then you get, like, an inkling of how, like, this would actually work, sort of, like, in the...
Now, how do they erase memories? I don't know. That kind of...
No, well, you see in Jack Attack, arguably the best, like, movie-based Pixar.
But how does that work, though? How does that machine work, though?
I don't know how it works.
That's what I mean. I almost wish it wasn't that element.
What are we going to do? Like, take 5 minutes to explain how the machine...
No. What I would say is I wish they hadn't said that one element, like saying, like, we have to pay him off, keep the company quiet, movie fail. Like, I wish they listed all really realistic things so they would add to what I'm trying to say. Like, it makes it really...
I can buy the government has a memory erasure thing.
I'm sure that... Well, they do.
In fact, in fact, I saw it, but I don't remember.
I don't remember. Someone told me about it.
Yeah, someone told me.
But yeah.
But yeah, I guess, like, going more into, like, sort of how this is all coming from, like, the core of family. Another really interesting thing is how many different, like, familial motifs are invoked. And something like say, like, you have the climax where you get everything from Bob and Dash are playing catch to the entire family is, in a sense, fighting over the remote.
Yeah.
Which, like, that's hilarious. That's so great. Like, I can't believe how then they're able to interweave it so well. And, of course, then there are some scenes, like, or like, even something like the dinner table scene from earlier when there's, like, an argument, and then slowly it becomes about, like, oh, Dash is running around, Violet's throwing force fields, like, the table's coming everywhere. Yeah. So, it really... And it all just feels so natural, and you're able to point at it the whole time and be like, oh, yeah, that's like my family. But, like, except, like, my mom's arms don't go, like, 20 feet.
One of the best examples of that is when they're driving and they're talking about the exits.
Yeah, oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
That's, like, exactly, like, great, we missed it. Like, like it's so true to life.
Yes.
Like, them, like, no, don't do that, it'll be quicker. Blah, blah, blah. Like, but you also remember that there's, like, they're, like, trying to fight a giant robot.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time. And it's I think it's that integration that makes it so memorable, I think. Yeah. You know, and also so endearing because it is like that. Oh, excuse me. You know what you were saying, that familial kind of guys.
Yeah.
You know, it's at its core about like these family issues, but with this coat of paint of like a volcano, a rocket, a giant robot. Yeah. But at the core, at the end of the day, it's really about their relationships as a unit, as a family.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, you get that across even more in, like, something like the montage from when, like after he defeats the original Oddmandrad that, like, he faced off against, and he's starting to then work out and, like, be more involved with his family, and that's a really good highlight for the movie's score as well. Like
that's a great score. Yeah, that's a great part of the score.
Yeah, you see, like, the marriage is improving, like, he's spending more time with his kid, all that, like. If in any other movie, it would be all about, like, okay, we're gonna do a montage of, like, Bob is like he's you know, like, lifting up, like, the trains or whatever. Like, we're gonna focus on that because that's all so cool. But, like, no, like, most of this montage is it'll do stuff like, you know, he's reading, like, a magazine on how to, like, lose weight, and then he'll, like, casually, like, oh, like. Elastigirl's like vacuuming, and then he like lifts up like the entire like
while still reading.
So it'll like invoke it so subtly like that. I think that really speaks to where the movie's priorities lie.
Yeah, totally. Why don't we talk about if we're searching for a topic to discuss here?
Okay.
Why don't we talk about ever so briefly?
Yes.
The quote unquote camera work.
Yes, I was just gonna bring that up.
So this is Brad Bird, who's coming from animation.
The Iron Giant.
Right. The Iron Giant.
Hand-drawn animation. So that comes out and like, you know, like obviously huge critical success has gone on to accrue a huge cult following, as it should. But it wasn't really promoted very much at the time, kind of got buried, didn't really make a lot of money. So Brad Bird, he did go to CalArts with, like, John Lasseter and, like, Tim Burton and such. So, like, they knew each other. So then that was kind of, like, his in to, like, come into Pixar and bring a lot of the people that he worked on Iron Giant with, who were, like, 2D animation people. and sort of like mold like who would end up forming the crew of The Incredibles. So with him, he kind of then brings not only like this like hand-drawn animation sensibility, but he had already been using the camera in very interesting ways in The Iron Giant. But yeah, like talk a little more about
what I wanted to say is, it's interesting coming with a guy coming exclusively from animation.
Yes.
How much the camera really feels like this is the first, I think, Pixar movie that feels like it was like shot.
Yes, absolutely.
And maybe that's also like, this is something we should talk about later. That maybe it is because it's like all humans in actual realistic spaces. Mm-hmm. But
it's not just that.
But it like the way the camera, like, it's not doing anything that I don't think you could do in a live action movie. Mm-hmm. It's doing like these dolly shots. And I can feel like it's not going any further because like that's where the track ended. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, there'll be things, the way the camera will move. It feels like a very live action sensibility, which is weird, but coming from a guy exclusively doing animation.
Right.
Like, there'll be a lot of interesting tracking shots.
I think like when Edna is showing Helen the different suits,
the camera like shakes with
the camera goes pans back and forth, kind of with them, like we're going on like a little ride demonstration. There's like that there's like a handheld shot that you notice right after, like when they're getting back to the house.
There's a handheld shot.
I didn't hire a replacement, and they run back into the house. Like, or there's this great like POV shot of when Gilbert Huff calls like Bob in to like have like a meeting, and he's looking at the pencils, and then Bob sits down, pan back to, like tilt back down to the pencils. One of them like moved a little off.
Great
like,
visual comedy
because they're all pointing straight at him, and then one goes a little off, and then he pushes it back, and then back up to Bob. So yeah, like lots of like playfulness with the camera work, but it all like I say playfulness, but it all does have a purpose in either just like making the world feel more real, or just kind of like embracing its stylistic flair, like to let further complement the superheroic elements, so to speak. Yeah. So that's something I think then very significant, and of course it would be foolish not to mention that he did go on to live action and did a Mission Impossible movie, and it was the best Mission Impossible movie. So that really came full circle in quite an interesting way.
And then he made another great live action movie, Tomorrowland.
Oh yeah, well,
I've not seen it.
I've seen it. It has, like it's probably like his weakest effort, but he didn't write it. Like Damon Lindelof was right, and not to call it Damon Lindelof. I don't know, whatever. It's still worth seeing.
My question to you is,
yeah,
and I try to really be objective here.
Okay.
Does Incredibles 2 happen if Tomorrowland is really successful?
I think so, because I think he'd been talking about making it for a very long time. He'd been talking about, like, once I then, like, think of an idea that then I'm satisfied with, and only then I'll do another one. I think he would have then came back around to it. And I think even as early as when he was then being, like, in the sort... Because I think he actually was approached about Star Wars Episode 7. But he wanted to do Tomorrowland, and already... I think Incredibles 2 was maybe, like, already in the cards at that point. But he wanted to, like, do, like, his projects, And I think Star Wars was, like, a movie he wanted to see that. Rather than make, I think maybe that could be in the future. He'll do another Star Wars for Disney, but
if only he was doing Episode 9.
Yeah, well,
maybe J.J. Abrams will die or something, and then they'll have to do.
Jeez, oh no, J.J. Abrams, who returned the franchise to huge commercial and critical.
I'm not saying I'd be happy if he died. I'm just saying that it'd be an open spot for Brad Bird to come in.
Of course, I would love if Brad Bird directed a Star Wars movie. But anyway, yeah. But yeah, Brad Bird, yeah. So he's a great director, regardless of the medium, regardless of hand-drawn, CG, live action. He's a master.
He's proven himself.
He has proven himself. And there are not many directors for which you can say that, the same. And I think Mission Impossible, what was so good about that is he made not just, like, Tom Cruise, but, like, the rest of, like, the cast feel like a pivotal part of the film, like the whole ensemble, which I think speaks to what he does with The Incredibles, in that all of these characters, like, again, even though it's then sort of front-loaded in how it's addressing Bob and his, like, sort of, like, issues, it really then, it does right by all of its characters. They all have arcs, and they're all very satisfying. Even with, like Violet then learns to, like then she's able to, like, at first she sort of is acting against this idea of like all I want to be is normal, whereas Das of course wants to like sort of like flaunt his ability. But then Violet learns to then take pride in not only what she's capable of doing, but like by extension herself, and have the confidence to ask Tony Ridinger out on a date. Which I hope since Incredibles 2 picks up right after the first one, I hope we get to see that date.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Friday. It'd be fun to play with that. I was saying how great it would be if, like, since the very last shot is, then we zoom in on Mr. Incredible's suit underneath. Incredibles 2 zooms out from, there's the logo on the suit, and with
the 2018 rendering.
And we're in, like, the
animation.
Oh, my God.
It's such a shame that the movie's not coming out 15 years later.
Yeah,
because of the line 15 years too late. But, we can see it earlier.
It was almost...
So what month does that come out?
I think it's in June.
Okay, so we won't be here at school.
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
That is a shame.
Well, I'll come up. We'll come up and...
We'll have to, yeah.
Well, I'll come to Long Island, or you can... No, I'll come visit you. Probably.
Yeah.
But we'll have to see it.
Okay.
But I don't want to beat a dead horse. Well, I love to beat dead horses. That's one of my favorite things to do on the weekends.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure, because I think this is one of the most interesting things about the film. Let's make sure we leave no stone unturned. I think we've articulated it. Why does this feel different than all of their other films before this?
No, yeah.
I think we've talked about the reasons why, because it's has these different themes, and then maybe it's a little more mature.
Human cast,
but really comparing it to the other five, drawing on specific examples, what is it about this that feels different?
I think
comparing it specifically to Finding Nemo or Monsters Inc. or Toy Story.
It's less about marveling at the world and sort of understand look at this, isn't this sort of then nice and charming and such, and more just okay, it is about these characters, it is about this world, and it's less, it's I guess the commonality between all the Pixar films up until this point was that we were taking a different section of, not even a different section of our world in all cases, but, sometimes, a completely, fantasy land in something like Monsters, Inc., and showing how it reacts to our world, and sort of, mining the comedy from that. Whereas, with The Incredibles, it's, it's all in our world, and it is still, to an extent, about, sort of the interference between that and a supernatural or, high-concept element, but it's more the high concept element has to adjust and slot into our world, as opposed to our world then kind of reacting to and being swept up in the fantastical. The fantastical is being suppressed by reality in this movie.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a difference. I don't know.
That's really insightful.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think for me it goes to this idea of I don't know. I think I kind of laid it out. I think in terms of the way it presents its story.
Yeah.
In this sense of it doesn't. I don't mean this in a pejorative way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel cartoony.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel for all you want to say about Toy, Woody's a cartoon character through and through. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That's not a bad thing. Now let's define what that means. Exaggerated physicality. Mm-hmm. Heightened design. Right. Probably couldn't exist. You probably couldn't do it without the aid of some kind of computer-generated imagery if it were a live-action film. Uh-huh. Right? This film feels like a real, I don't know what the word would be. But
to the point that unnamed studio executives questioned, why is this even animated?
Yes! Unnamed, or do we know the...
No, unnamed because we weren't given the names.
I don't know if it was you were being coy.
No.
And I think that it lends itself a lot of. I think it gets a lot from that. Mm-hmm. I think it gives it a lot of mileage. Mm-hmm. I'm really not connecting my thoughts well on this, but anyway,
that's all right.
Why don't we talk about this is a good segue, talking about animation. Animation of it. I think part of it is that this is the first time it's a human cast.
Yeah. It's a human cast.
And
it's more I guess sort of realistic or familiar locations, but at the same time still very stylized, because it is somewhat period. I guess we could glean that given hints in the dialogue as to when some of the supers died because of cape-related incidents, we can glean that this like would be like early 70s at the early, even though maybe it's like more of like a 50s 60s vibe. Like I guess that's technically in when it's set.
I thought this took place in the present until watching it this time.
Oh really?
I never put together that this probably the first part probably took place in the 60s because it was the newsreel. I was like, why would there be a newsreel?
Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It won't take you out of the story, but like because it is sort of like this like heightened like we're like
the past is very rose-colored,
retro-y. Yeah, exactly. So and then also like of course like even though it is an all-human cast, it's not like it I think this speaks to the fact that Brad Bird has those hand-drawn animation roots. You could see how like the characters were drawn. It's not just like, okay.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah. Even though, despite what I was saying about how it feels very live action, that's something I love about his films, this and Ratatouille, like his Pixar canon, that, like, they feel, like, they're not trying to achieve photorealism. Like, they feel like 2D characters. They feel like cartoons.
Because, like, look at the scene when, like, Mr. Incredible's, like, pulling into his driveway, and then, like, the skateboard comes, and we, like, tilt down to his feet. He has tiny feet! Those are some really tiny feet for a very big man. But like but the film's not trying to it's not trying to be like, oh well then this is going to be our realistic uncanny valley human design. No, it is like it's embracing the cartoonishness of it, which somewhat goes against what we were saying before. Yeah. But it's still like within reality enough that like, you know, that like you know, doing that I think like poking those holes in it, like the reality to a certain degree allows room for all of the fantasticality of the narrative.
Yeah.
Because to try to make it as realistic as possible would be like why are you doing that? Because this is a story about superheroes.
Yeah. I love the prologue, the way that's animated with the color. Yeah. Especially the scene on the rooftop. It almost looks cel shaded.
Yeah,
it feels very much like a comic book. I know why they didn't. I know why they didn't do this. Yeah, because it wouldn't fit for the rest of the story. I would love to see a movie animated just like that.
Oh, I would love to see it would be really nice.
I would love to see a superhero. Like they're doing Incredibles 2. I want to see like Incredibles 2 is the more interesting story, but part of me longs to see like a prequel.
The Glory Days.
Yeah, like something that's set in the Glory Days.
That would be cool
because you get that kind of animation sustained throughout, where it feels very much like a comic book.
Yeah, going back to the prologue, that reminds me of how interesting it is that it opens with like those interviews. I think it's
very sophisticated,
very sophisticated, but it's a really cool choice that we have Bob being the one who's saying like, oh, like sometimes I think about settling down, starting a family, and Helen's like, settle down? Are you kidding? Like, you know, like leave that. It's so fascinating that like I can't think of then too many movies where it's like, oh, this character establishes like, oh, it has maybe like this sort of objective, and this one has this, and they're completely reversed. Within a time jump and very little like movie time, really kind of like fascinating choice. It makes you think like, why do you think they did that?
Well, I was gonna make a comment about that. I think with Bob, it shows kind of like he is someone who idealizes different time periods.
Oh
except for his own.
Okay.
So like,
interesting.
He's like, oh, I just want to stay safe, and then like thinking about the future, like, oh, how great would that be? But when that future comes, all you can think about is the past. Like, well, how great was that?
He has Midnight in Paris syndrome.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So for him, it's kind of like, yeah, he thinks it would be nice because he hasn't done it yet. For Elastigirl, I think it's more comes out of that tenacity of. Oh, by the way, like I'm not this kind of, you know, I don't want to make a big point about it, but like, great female character.
Oh,
you know, Elastigirl, like one of the best.
I think Elastigirl and Holly Hunter's performance.
Holly, oh my god, she's so good.
I think she's the standout.
She 100%.
Yeah.
With her character, it very much is like that young underdog chip on her shoulder, like, yeah, leave it to the men. No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think so. But I think when you know when the superhero relocation act, whatever it's called, happens, she's more willing to accept because now she has this other life. And that's more important.
There's such a multidimensionality.
That's what I'm saying about this. This feels more complex than any of their other films.
Because then, like, if Elastigirl, like, right off the bat was like, oh, I'm thinking about settling down, starting to... Like, it wouldn't be as, like, tragic, and you wouldn't get as much of a sense of, like, what she's sacrificed, you know? Like, because she really... She loved this. She relished in it, and it was, like... It's, like taken from her. based on like what happened, and like she's made the best of it, and she's trying to then adjust to this new life. And like, yeah, the argument that she has with Bob is so great. And when it's like, oh, are we gonna pretend like the glory days never happened? She's like, yes, they happened, but like
you're missing what's happening now.
You're missing what's happening now.
And I think it goes to that thing of they talk about people like being afraid like of having kids, and then like when they have them, it's like in the hospital room, it's like everything suddenly changes. Like, I don't just mean like, oh, now your life's more hard, like it's more difficult, but this is like the way you look at like not even through any like decision of your own, like everything, like all you want to do is like take care of this baby, like so I think that's kind of what happened with, and I'm not trying to make a comment like, oh, women want to do that, men don't. But my point is, I think for her that clicked.
Yes,
it was like, you know what, all that super stuff doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
What matters right now is taking care of this child,
and that's
with
so
my
awesome.
husband.
It's so awesome.
But for Bob, I think not to say that he doesn't care about his kids, but he can't let go of that.
Right.
And then he has the great line, like, no, I realize now you are my greatest adventure.
You're my greatest adventure.
You know. Oh,
I'm not strong enough. I can't lose you again. I'm not strong enough.
I think a lesser movie would have made such a big deal, like, I love you guys or whatever, but it's so, the sophistication of that scene where he's like, I need to do this alone. Yeah. And she's like, why? Why? So this is like a workout for you? And he says, I can't lose you again. And he's like, I'm not strong enough. Right. So what do you mean you're not strong enough? Like, this is some kind of workout? He's like, I can't lose you again. I'm not strong enough. Yeah. A lesser film would have been like, I'm not strong enough, okay? I can't take losing you. But like, all you need to hear is, I'm not strong. I can't lose you again. I'm not strong. He like stutters. Yeah. And you see now a change. What a great deconstruction of toxic masculinity.
Oh, yes.
It goes from this idea of like it's all about physical strength to emotional strength, because he's very emotionally weak at the beginning of the film. He's not in tune with his emotions. Right. Wow, this movie's so much depth.
Layered.
This movie's so and I think that going back to our original thing. Yeah. How does it make it? I think that's the big topic about this movie is what makes it different. I think it's that. I think this is an unparalleled depth and complexity. That I think is unique to this film up to this point out of the six that we've seen. And because that scene, as a writer, it gives me like goosebumps. It's so well conceived and so sophisticated. It's graceful is the word.
And it's even further complicated by the fact that he's doing like noble acts. Like he says, like, I did a public service. Like, but is it like by somewhat selfish motivations, and is it like selfish to?
And it kind of is yes and no.
It's like
It's not. It's both. He did do a good thing, and he's being selfish. Yeah. Like it's not like, oh, you were bad. It's so layered and complex and not black and white, but gray. It's
like when he sees like someone like being like robbed right outside of InsureCare, like you can't like you're rooting for him to go out and like stop that guy from being robbed. It's an injustice. But like it's like is it then like a fully then like idealistic then motivated? While they really then walk the line between then he's still like he's likable and noble, but also it's feeding into like the days he's missing. He wants the validation, and of course I guess that's what's so brilliant about Syndromes. But by the way, like how many of these like freaking movies do we have where like the supervillain has some sort of crazy ridiculous cockamamie plan? This is a really good like super. I mean like he's kind of like a dope. But like it's a really good plan.
It's a well thought.
Because it's feeding into all these superheroes then aren't able to like get like their satisfaction of using their talents and using what they were meant to do. Going back to what we were saying before about like becoming like sort of like fulfilling who you are and what your talents are, and he's acting upon that, and that's how he's able to kill them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's and something I was gonna say is I forget. It's gone. It was a good. We were just talking about that complexity that I don't know. It's gone.
Okay.
What were we just talking? What were we just talking?
We were talking about Syndrome's plan and
I know what I was gonna say. Okay. So this whole thing about him being selfish or whatever. I do think at the end of the day, though, his intentions are good.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just like it's not some kind of vanity thing where it's like I want people to love me and like think I'm great.
Because it's secret identity. Yeah.
It's secret identity. I think it is about helping people.
It is about helping.
But sometimes it is about like I want to help people so I feel useful.
Yes.
I think. Right. Not so much.
Which is a very precise like.
I don't think it's like
they hit it.
Yeah, I don't think. I think part of it is like the crowds and all of it. Right. But I don't think it's a complete vanity affair.
Absolutely not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, which is why it's so like multidimensional and complex and
layered.
Perfectly calibrated and layered. And other good things.
Other great things that we could say.
Yeah.
We started to talk about casting with Holly Hunter.
Yes. Okay.
So why don't we, I guess, talk about a little bit about the voice
So we have
cast?
Craig T. Nelson.
Hello, I can't speak today. Mostly like not famous people. It's not like a Tom Hanks or
Craig T. Nelson from Coach.
I don't even know.
Which is a show, yeah. So
Holly Hunter, who like no one would know by name, to be honest.
Yeah.
She's
Sarah Vowell, who like isn't an actress. She's like a historian,
Violet?
and yeah, she's Violet, and she's like a historian, does like radio shows. Brad Bird like heard her and realized like, oh, like this would really fit the character. But like yeah, like she's then like like that's not even like an actress. She totally nails it, by the way. And there's such a great there's such a great feature on the DVD that's like sort of like a biography about her and like very, very like sort of like self-aware, self-mocking about herself that like she does. It's so good, like one of the best, most memorable bonus features ever. But anyway, there's that.
I'm really gonna miss the voice actor for Dash in this new one because now he's not gonna sound the same. He was very young.
Well, if they get, I mean, if they did a really good job with in Finding Dory, finding someone who could really sound like Alexander Gould. So maybe, I don't know. What's his name? Spencer Fox, I think, was the actor for Dash. But yeah,
he did a great job.
He did a fantastic job.
He really captures that kind of like cocky.
But like a giddiness,
like a smug, like very pleased with himself.
Which of course sells the 100-mile dash scene and the laugh when walking on water. Perfect laugh.
Oh god, like that might be one of the greatest moments in the movie ever when he runs onto the water.
Yeah.
And he realizes he can run over the water. He just goes, like that was I don't know why I just tried to do it, but like it's so it fills me with so much glee.
Yeah.
Watching it.
Yeah.
Samuel L. Jackson, probably the most effort he's put into a role in this century.
Really? Yeah, you think so?
Because I think every movie he's done in the 2000s has been like, oh, this is him just like getting a paycheck.
What? Mace Windu was about a paycheck?
Yeah, but
you jest.
It's surprising how well he does in voice acting. You know what I mean?
He has a pretty distinct voice, I think.
He does,
and some fiery emotions. And of course the where.
No, I wish he said motherfucker or something in the.
You wish he said that in the Incredibles.
Where's my motherfucking super suit?
No, of course, there has to be a callback to that in The Incredibles 2, and the callback has to be...
Because if just doing any callback is going to be annoying, unless
it's specifically this, which I came up with. It was like, wait a minute, where's my... Oh, there it is. Perfect. There we go.
I thought like the movie, like it's like one of the first scenes.
Yeah.
Just get out of the way.
Yeah.
I really hope with Incredibles 2 they really don't like remember...
I don't think.
The Incredible. I really hope it's like a Toy Story 2 thing where it's like completely, any kind of callbacks are more like we've completely recontextualized this and like, like in Toy Story 2 he says you are a toy. It doesn't feel like a
and in Toy Story
callback.
3 when we see like something like the Army Men, we're bringing it back to show how different it is now and that they're leaving. But yeah, another like speaking of Incredibles 2, another like tiny little thread that I picked up on that I never really like thought about in terms of anticipating it before was at the end when they're talking to Rick Dicker in the limo and Bob asks, "Oh, does this mean we can come out of hiding?" And he's like, "Oh, like we'll see." That could be a really interesting sort of then conflict to grapple with, maybe. But also, yeah, also then going back to again like the fact that then it's apparently gonna be focused on Elastigirl, and there was this really great deleted scene for the original film that sort of like tapped into like more about like what she sacrificed and what she sort of laid on the line, and they're at like this barbecue. And he overhears this other like woman like talking about like like kind of like condescending like motherhood to a degree, and like she like flips out on her like, you think raising a family is easy? Like do you know like what I gave up for that? And like she's like, my God, like what on earth did you used to do? I'm sorry. And like of course she can't say.
Yeah. And
it was such a good scene, and like to the point that like literally just like put that scene in The Incredibles 2. Yeah. Like it's so good.
Though what I would say is though, for that scene,
yeah,
I don't think it landed. No, that scene sounds really cool.
Yeah.
But something about a potential flaw with that scene.
Yeah.
Is she didn't give up being a superhero to raise a family. She gave up being a superhero because of the law.
Well, yeah.
So it would be interesting to see, like, now that maybe it's no longer a thing, she has to decide, well, between being a good mother and now being a superhero fighting crime, like, every night.
Yeah.
So that could be an interesting way to... I think that's how you wrestle with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you reintroduce the thing, so now superheroes are legal again.
Right.
So a couple things that will come up. All these old fucks who haven't been doing this in forever.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, cool.
Being brought back.
Uh-huh.
Not being used to the new kind
Maybe
of
there's pressure for some of them to come back, and they're so well adjusted they don't want to come back.
They don't want to come back.
Yeah.
Then you have the new kids on the block, because there has to be more supers out there who never were superheroes, who were just born this way. Like you have to imagine that, other superheroes had kids like
and they had to suppress it all their lives, and like Das, but to the nth degree, are like so eager to unleash their powers on the world.
Or you have people. I mean, did Bob's parents have superpowers as well? So there's most likely just kids who are just being born who don't have any of that lineage. They just now have powers.
Yeah.
It's never really explained, but never really needs to be explained.
No.
Is it kind of like, do they get them from like? Is it like a Spider-Man thing where you get like you're exposed to something, or is it like you're born with like a mutant, like an X-Men? It's never really explored. I guess you're born with it,
because I think exploring that would like alienate you from the and from what they're trying to say. Because if the message ties into like sort of what we personally bring to the table and what our talents are, to suggest that we have our talents because a radioactive spider.
So you're saying that most likely it's just everyone's born with it.
Yeah, it would be silly to do that. I think it would be counter to the point.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious. I'm very nervous about what they do with this movie.
Okay.
I'm very interested to see how they take this movie, because it can be really good or it can be really bad. I don't think there's any room for mediocrity.
Much like in The Incredibles.
I think it's gonna be really good or really really bad.
Interesting.
What are the major things we want to touch on? Because we're already coming up to about an hour.
Okay.
So we did spend a lot of time talking about like not The Incredibles. We talked about like Logan and like
but like it's important to like sort of establish it in the context of superhero films. And it's also interesting to say that when this came out in 2004, it was before like the media landscape was absolutely dominated by superheroes.
Yeah, because if you think about it, up to in 2004.
Yeah,
is the year
2004.
So at that point, the only truly good, the ones that stood the test of time up to this point, were
the Raimi Spider-Man,
the two Raimi Spider-Man movies, which came out the same year.
Yeah.
Wow, two of the best super movies came out the same year.
Yeah. Spider-Man.
I would say X-Men and X-Men 2.
Yeah, X-Men and X-Men 2.
And that's it. Hulk, but no one really talked. Even back then, no one really cared about the Hulk.
Ang Lee Hulk, no.
Yeah, so the landscape isn't as cluttered. If this movie came out today, I think it would be kind of like a niche.
It'd be buried a little bit.
It would be a little bit buried.
The Marvel Cinematic Universe. It would be like when they came out with Big Hero 6, and it's like, it's another one of those super. And we have our Stan Lee cameo, and it's like, hey, we're like Marvel. We literally are Marvel. We're technically a Marvel property, but you never heard of us. Hey, it's us.
Yeah.
So that would be something, and I think there would be all the more pressure for it to sort of lean more into its satirical edge, just to differentiate itself.
Yeah. Whereas with this, it because of its when it came out in time, it gave it a luxury of just being able to play the game as opposed to comment on the game. And now I guess, but now going back to Incredibles 2, that raises some questions about. I think
Brad Bird has already said that he's not going to let that influence the film.
Okay, I think there's enough hype surrounding it. I will say. I mean, maybe it's different because, most of the properties now have received sequels of some kind.
Yeah.
Or the ones that people would want sequels. But even before, Finding Dory came out, before Monster Universe came out, the sequel everyone was always clamoring for was Incredibles 2. Because I think it's the only one that begs for a sequel. Mm-hmm. I think other ones benefit from getting sequels.
Because we have to understand the cliffhanger with the Underminer. Okay.
What happens?
Listen. I need to, address this right now. Because all the people are like, oh my god, it ended with a cliffhanger with the Underminer. Look, the point of the Underminer, it was to illustrate this is the new status quo, so to speak. There's a family is working together. They're fighting the Underminer, which is why the freaking video game Rise of the Underminer, which I didn't play, just from a story level, is utter bullcrap. Because at the very beginning of the game, instead of the whole point of the Underminer is to illustrate the fact that now Mr. Incredible and they're fighting together and they're a family, and yes, this is awesome. Mr. Incredible and Frozone, it's oh no, you guys go home. Me and Zone will take care of this. It's what? No.
So is that now? If Incredibles 2 is starting with the battle with the Underminer,
Rise of the Underminer will be non-canon.
It's not canon.
Thank
anymore.
God.
It's not canon. It's not part of the official
fall of the Underminer. That's what I say.
No, but Yeah, no, I think I'm really interested to see how it now plays, like, because the landscape of superhero films has completely changed, as well as the landscape of animated films.
Yeah.
Has changed so much in the past 14 years by the time that it comes out.
Definitely.
Is there anything else specific we wanted to touch on, or before we talk about rankings?
I really like the fact that Brad Bird pays tribute to his mentors from I think they taught at CalArts. It's Frank and Ollie Johnson, who are part of Disney's
Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson.
Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson. Yeah, Frank Thomas and Ollie Johnson. Sorry. Yeah, they're the two old guys at the end. See that? That's old school. No school like the old school. I really like that he sort of like puts them in the movie, because I know he would screen it and sort of like still like get like their feedback like while he was like working on it.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I love that.
Did Floyd Norman work on this at all?
No. He worked on Toy Story 2, and maybe he worked on Monsters, Inc., maybe?
Yeah, that seems more like him than...
Yeah. Which, I think that makes sense. But, yeah. Floyd Norman's a really cool guy.
Yeah, that's an episode for another day.
That's an episode for another day, sure. Okay, I guess we could talk, unless you have anything else to say, we could get into the rankings.
I don't think so. I'm sure we'll think of something while we're doing rankings, and that'll take us on another tangent.
Sure.
But I'm curious, so what was your ranking before this movie?
Before this movie.
So what was your 5?
To reiterate, okay.
From bottom to top.
It was A Bug's Life was at the bottom, and then it went... What was it? It's Monsters, Inc., and then, Finding Nemo, then Toy Story, then Toy Story 2. And from watching The Incredibles, I was surprised. Because I thought that I would put Finding Nemo higher than The Incredibles. And I think now, at this stage in my life, I would put The Incredibles above Finding Nemo.
So, but still under the two Toy
Stories. Still under the two Toy Stories, but above Finding Nemo, which is not something that I anticipated. But, I think then that goes to then this whole notion of, like, when you look at, like, Nemo and, like, it has, like, and, like, again, like, we are getting into, like, this is very, very relatively speaking. Like, in order to, like, compare these
really
giants, But, like, with Nemo, it has more of, like, a formula in the sense that it's like, okay, we're going to show, like, this... Like, you sort of then... You figure out the patterns of Finding Nemo fairly early on. Like, God forbid, the masterpiece of Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
But with The Incredibles, like, it is so, like, audacious and ambitious to the point that, like, it's willing to, like, continue to keep reinventing itself throughout the entire running time. And every sort of, like, change, like, it takes you through is completely earned, and it feels totally natural, and it feels very much like it's its own thing throughout. And it's, like, absolutely fabulous how it's able to not only afford arts to the whole family and be a great superhero film and a great action film, but, like, also just, justify being animated, justify having, like, this context of superheroes while still, like, doing right by... that it is a family movie and it is, like, a personal story, and navigating like the tonal balance of, like, okay, like, that it's still, like, entertaining to everybody. Yeah, it's just, like, I think it earns, like, with its creative ideas and its flawless execution, it earns that spot. I think. Yeah.
Very good.
Very good.
So my ranking.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised about where it fell.
You're not surprised.
I'm not surprised where it fell. So, bottom to top.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, because I'm trying to do this off of memory.
I'll remember if you don't.
Bug's Life, Toy Story, Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Toy Story 2.
Yes.
Monsters, Inc.
Yes.
And then now at the top, The Incredibles. The Incredibles. Because, everything, like, I don't want to just cop up and say ditto. But basically, for everything you said, as well as I think I can't think of a single thing wrong with this movie. Mm-hmm. All of the other ones are near perfect, but if I really try to nitpick, I can say, oh, well, maybe this part doesn't really work as well. With Bug's Life, I can do it a lot. I spend an hour, in fact, just talking about how it doesn't work.
Wow.
But this, I really can't even nitpicking. I can't think of an element that really doesn't work.
And wouldn't you love to say something like, oh, like, when they introduce Syndrome, it's like sort of like sloppy. I don't know if they could be like, but no, it's not. Like, they set it up exactly right, and they... And
I think going off to everything, like, I feel like I am really being a dead horse, but, like, that complexity, that maturity, that sense of, really feeling fresh, not just in the context of Pixar films, but just feeling fresh to anything, really.
To anything.
I think that's what, for me, garners the top spot.
It's not even like... You know what this reminds me? It reminds me of when you talk about... Because this is an interesting thing you always bring up. How there will be, like, particularly with the newer Marvel movies, it's like, oh, this is like Winter Soldier is like a different genre, and like this is a different genre. You like kind of refer to, like, not to speak for you, but you refer to them, it's like a coat of paint for each of these. Like this is fresh for the superhero genre in a way that is not a fresh coat of paint.
It really feels more like a family drama.
Yeah.
The way that The Dark Knight is truly a crime thriller and Logan is truly a Western, this is truly a family drama.
Whereas when
superhero elements.
Yeah, whereas when people say Spider-Man Homecoming is like, it's really, at its heart, it's really a high school movie.
No,
it's not.
It's a superhero film with high school movie elements.
Yes.
Winter Soldier is a superhero movie with spy thriller elements. What I'm talking about, I think this truly does subvert the genre. Yet at the same time, like I said before, embraces its pulpiness, is what I would say.
And when it does subvert it, it does so with purpose. It's not about subverting it to be like, look how dark we are. Look how dark we can be. Oh, it's the story, and in service of what happened to these characters. And really, like, getting into, like, their lives, and yeah.
I would say it's one of the most interesting family dramas ever.
Yeah.
Ever made.
Totally earns that. Absolutely.
So for me, that's how I rank my 6. I'll say it right now. I've been surprised at how I've been ranking these, honestly, for a lot of them.
Yeah.
So this could change, but I'll just say this now. Spoiler. Okay. I don't think anything will uproot Incredibles from its number 1 slot.
And we'll play this clip when something does.
When something does, we'll go right back to this clip.
Yeah.
But I can't foresee... I was always... When people always ask me what my favorite Pixar movie was, I was always afraid to say, because I was like, oh, but what about this other one? But when we really sat down the other night, like, talking, like, how do you think your list will end up after we watch all 19? Yeah. I realized that Incredibles would probably be at the top, and now after watching it, like, I don't see any movie... I can think of one, maybe. But I don't think I will put up there, and if I were to, I think it would be, like, a riot would ensue. Me trying to say this is better than not only better than The Incredibles, but the best one.
Cars 2? Really?
Cars 2. I will say it off the air when we're done.
I know. I think I know. But
I will not. I can already tell you. Even if I do think it, I will not put that as number 1.
You know, it's good. Like, you know, they're all like absolutely fantastic movies, but there has to be some like certain level of like divergence between them. Because if everyone's super, no one will be.
No one will be. That's absolutely... What a great way to end it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, everyone, for listening to our ramblings. You know, I really don't think we had anything negative to say about this movie at all. Even one of us. At least sometimes, like, one of us might say something kind of negative about one part, and then we'll kind of...
I don't think either of us fight it, yeah.
I don't think either of us said anything bad about this movie.
No.
Not one single solitary thing.
One thing, no.
Well, thanks so much for listening, everybody. Next episode, we will be talking about the greatest Pixar film... The Cars.
The Cars.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.